After spending so much time together, it only makes sense that pets grow attached to their owners and vice versa. That's why it's always so sad for both of them to say goodbye to one another. Unfortunately, that's life, and the one thing that stays with us for the rest of our lives is a series of memories that we make with our beloved pets. In today's video, we'll be looking at 20 heartbreaking goodbyes between pets and their owners, so get some tissues ready. It's gonna be pretty sad to watch. Our first entry is lifelong friends. Lynn Bakker and her dog Jaden became friends from the moment the girl was born. That's why it was sad for the little girl to say goodbye to her dog when the dog became blind, deaf, and was no longer able to walk at the age of 13. Since the dog's life had become quite miserable, the girl's dad decided to put the dog to sleep, which made the girl hold on tightly to her pet with tears in her eyes until the moment of his departure. Their bond was so special that it got attention from the media even. Our next entry is Rebecca and COCO. When her husband was deployed, Rebecca Cassidy had to stay home with her dog COCO. In a moment of loneliness, the dog was there for her, and that's why it was so sad for Rebecca and her husband to say goodbye to COCO after a doctor told them it was time to let go. It is a small comfort to know that the dog is no longer suffering, but no hug or any kind words can take away the pain that Rebecca went through. Our next entry is a bathroom funeral. Sending your dead fish down the toilet is probably not the best way to say goodbye. However, many people still do it and they find comfort in this ritual. That is the case of this boy and his fish named Top. The boy performed a little bathroom funeral for his goldfish, and it seems like things were a little tragic. The boy was in tears, but luckily his mom was right next to him to comfort him and help him feel better. Just goes to show you that we can bond with any one of our pets. Our next entry is last day together. This pet owner knew it was time to say goodbye to her beloved dog. That's why they spent their last day together doing all the things that they loved. The owner took more than 20 photos to document such a special and important day in their lives. But the last photo is one that will probably make everyone cry. You can see the woman holding onto her pit bull terrier, not ready to say her final goodbye. Our next entry is a hand squeeze and a goodbye. Little Andrew was a Russian blue cat that became famous over in 2016 when one of his pictures went viral. In the picture, you can see little Andrew holding and squeezing the hands of his owners before going to his last visit to the vet. It is obvious that little Andrew knew that his days on Earth were finally coming to an end. Thanks to this picture, however, little Andrew's human parents got a lot of messages of sympathy that helped them push through one of the hardest moments in their lives. Our next entry is nothing else to do. This picture captures the moment in which Kiara Manrique was crying over the death of her dog. She kept saying that she did everything she could and she would have done more, but there was nothing else she could do to keep her dog alive. The only thing she could do was to come to terms with her dog's death and say her goodbyes. Luckily, she was accompanied by her niece and a veterinarian who comforted her amidst their loss. Our next entry is the saddest moment. Juliette Rubio literally despised the moment in which she had to say goodbye to her 12-year-old dog named Dingo. She said that she still felt comfortable around her dog, the one who had provided her with comfort ever since he was welcomed into their household. Her last words to him were a couple of "I love yous," and then the dog passed away. Our next entry is a bed of flowers. Carrie Patterson says that it was painful to say goodbye to her dog Asia when she put sunflowers in her grave. However, she also says that it was quite comforting to see her pet friend rest peacefully in there as well. Our next entry is last hug. No dog is too small to receive a hug, even this little one named Spencer who got a hug from his loving owner before it was time to say goodbye. Bob Zan, the lucky guy who got to take good care of this dog, says it was painful to see his mother wave Spencer his final goodbye. What hurts the most is that dogs, unlike humans, do not always tell you when something inside of them is wrong. Sometimes they just keep going until they finally give up and it's time to let them go. Our next entry is Together Till the End. It's not always owners the ones who have to say goodbye to their pets. Pets also have to endure these difficult times when their owners depart from life a little too soon. That's the case of this horse named Serrano, who was the best friend of a man named Wagner in Brazil. When Wagner passed away after a terrible car accident, Serrano was taken to his funeral. They gave him the honor to bring his owner all the way to the grave, and according to some witnesses, it seemed like Serrano was well aware of what was going on. Serrano got closer to the coffin and started smelling it, and walked around it for a little bit. He finally laid his head against the coffin, and it seems like that was his way of saying goodbye to his Wagner. Our next entry is Giraffes Also Say Goodbye. Most of the pets I've mentioned are animals that are commonly found in people's homes. However, when you work at a zoo or a safari, wild animals can become attached to you just like your pets. This giraffe is living proof of that. The maintenance worker who took care of the giraffes became terminally ill, and one of his last requests was to be wheeled into the giraffe's enclosure. This is where a small giraffe approached him and gave him a sweet kiss to say goodbye. Our next entry is Last Wish. There's an ambulance that is quite different from the ones we're used to seeing on the streets. This is the one by the Ambulance Wish Foundation, and what they do is that they put their non-mobile patients in a huge ambulance with huge windows so they can get one last wish granted before their final goodbye. The kindness of this foundation knows no limits. Even one time they used the ambulance to bring an 86-year-old man back to his farm to say goodbye to his ponies. It must have been nice for both the ponies and him to see each other one last time. Our next entry is Hard to Let Go. This woman had a hard time letting go of her dog Spencer. There was nothing she could do to make her dog feel better, and it was time to let him go. You can also tell with the tears in her eyes that the moment was not easy for her. She would have done anything to keep her dog alive for a little bit longer, as most of us would do. Our next entry is Goodbyes at the Hospital. This is a bit rare, but this dog was allowed to go into the hospital to say goodbye to her owner. This guy had a terrible brain hemorrhage and passed away. I would say, though, that we're pretty happy to know that one of the last things he did experience was having his dog coming over to the hospital along with the rest of his family for their final farewell. Our next entry is Paying Respects. Jason Ellis was a cop from Kentucky who worked closely with his canine cop dog named Figo. When Jason died, Figo attended the funeral, and one of his pictures went viral as the world saw the touching image of the dog putting its paws on its human partner's coffin. You can tell by looking at this picture that it must have been a very sad day for Figo. Our next entry is Mimosa's Goodbye. Mimosa's owners knew it was time to let her go when they noticed that she was not terrified by the thunder right outside their home. Usually she would run and hide in this type of situation. But when they saw that she wasn't moving, they started crying and gave their dog a big hug before kissing her goodbye. Our next entry is He Got His Wings. Olisa Likovi could not accept the fact that her dog Sam had just died, and honestly, I don't blame her. It's a very difficult situation that no one wants to go through. However, it was quite comforting to hear the vet said that little Sam had wings now, that the dog was no longer suffering. Our next entry is The Family's Goodbye. When they realized that their dog Allie was about to die, the family in the picture decided to gather and embrace the moment together. You can see that the one who suffered the most was the 8-year-old in the picture. But even in such a sad moment, what the boy wanted was to be next to his dog until the end. Now it's time for the day's best pick. The picture I chose for the day shows us a horse and a man saying goodbye to each other. I know we've already heard a story about a horse today, but here's another one that I'm sure is going to make you cry. The next one is His Only Wish. When people are ready for their final goodbye, they usually have one last wish. Something that they want to do before they move on to the next life. In the case of Frank Keat, all he wanted to do was to see his beloved horse one last time. Keat was only 65, but his decaying health had kept him from visiting his horse for a very long time. For that reason, people at the hospital made arrangements so Keat could have a visit from his horse friend to say goodbye. Since he couldn't go visit the horse, they decided to bring the horse to him. Before we move on, do me a favor. My analytics show that only about 15% of you watching are actually subscribed. Come on guys, what's up with that? Can you guys please hit the subscribe button? You guys watch my videos every day anyway, so you might as well subscribe and keep up to date with every video we put out. Our last entry is The Ranger and the Elephant. Like I said, animals and humans can become attached in unexpected ways. A few months ago, this video of this forest ranger in India became viral when people saw him cry emotionally over the death of an elephant. Apparently, the ranger had been taking care of the elephant at the Sadivile elephant camp in Mudamalai, but none of his efforts could save the elephant's life. The animal was badly injured and passed away. There was nothing else the poor ranger could do, and that's why in this video we see him gently caressing the elephant's trunk as he says his goodbyes. These two became close to each other in such a short time, and at least the elephant got to experience a bit of love after all the pain he had endured. It's definitely an inspiring clip, one not easily forgotten. I'd like to take 1 second and say that for those who have lost their loved pets, ones who are going to lose their loved pets, I've been through that myself. It's probably the hardest thing a loving pet owner could actually go through. It's so difficult to actually get to say goodbye, and sometimes you don't have the chance to say goodbye like me. But I want you all to know, it does start to get better. days get a little lighter and you start to remember them for the good memories and not for when you last saw them. You start to remember them with a smile on your face. And honestly, I think that's all we can ever really ask for. My advice is just give your pets as much love as you possibly can. And also take as many pictures, videos, everything you can to remember them by. So that way you can remember them every single day. I'll also say that we here at Top 5 Best would absolutely love to hear your stories about your animals and pets as well. Whether they're past or you still have them, we'd love to hear you gush about them. So please let us know in the comments below. With that said, that's our video for today, folks. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time. Later, everybody.